Formula One. Fast cars, obscene amounts of money, grown adults crying about tyres. On the surface, it looks simple. A bunch of cars go really fast, they turn left and right for a while, someone wins a trophy, and a team of 400 engineers either celebrate or quietly update their LinkedIn profiles. But here's the truth. Formula One is one of the most technically sophisticated, strategically complex, and emotionally devastating sports on the planet. And by the end of this video, the viewer will understand exactly why. Even if, at the start, they genuinely thought it was just cars driving in circles. Which, to be fair, it kind of is. But the circles have tyre strategies, and that changes everything. What is Formula One? Formula One is the highest class of single-seater motorsport in the world. It has existed since 1950. That is over 70 years of people going dangerously fast and calling it sport. The formula in Formula One refers to a set of technical regulations, a rule book that every team must follow when building their car. Think of it as a recipe. Everyone gets the same recipe. But the recipe is 430 pages long, is updated every year, and at least one team always finds a loophole about the flour. That team is usually Ferrari or Red Bull, and the other teams are always furious about it. Currently, there are 10 teams competing in Formula One. Each team runs 2 cars, meaning there are 20 drivers on the grid at any given time. Now here is something beginners often miss. Formula One actually runs 2 championships simultaneously within the same season. The Drivers' Championship, 20 drivers, every race, fighting for points. Whoever collects the most points by the final race of the season is the Formula One World Drivers' Champion. They receive a trophy. They receive eternal glory. They receive the ability to call themselves a Formula One World Champion for the rest of their lives, even when they are old and grey, and telling the story to people at dinner parties who absolutely did not ask. The Constructors' Championship. This one belongs to the teams. Both drivers from a team earn points, those points are added together, and the team with the most points at the end of the season wins the Constructors' Championship. Why does this matter? Because the prize money from the Constructors' Championship is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Finishing 3rd instead of 4th in the Constructors' standings can mean the difference between building a championship-winning car next year and building whatever Haas has been doing for the past 5 seasons. No offense to Haas, some offense to Haas. How points work? Points are awarded to the top 10 finishers in each race. The breakdown goes: first place gets 25 points, second place gets 18, third gets 15, then 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 1 for 10th. There is also a bonus point available for the driver who sets the fastest lap during the race, but only if that driver finishes in the top 10, because Formula One is a sport that rewards success and punishes everyone else, which is extremely on brand for motorsport. A Formula One season runs from roughly March to December, covering around 23 to 24 races on circuits spread across 5 continents. That is a lot of racing. That is a lot of flights. That is a lot of hotel rooms and jet lag. And yet the drivers all say they love it. Motorsport either creates extraordinary people or slightly unhinged ones, possibly both. A Formula One race weekend typically runs across 3 days: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, practice. 2 practice sessions, each one hour-long. Teams send their drivers out to learn the circuit, test car setups, evaluate new components, and collect data. Enormous amounts of data. Engineers love data the way most people love sleep, desperately and never quite getting enough of it. Sometimes teams also use Friday practice to run their reserve driver, which is exactly as bittersweet as it sounds. The reserve driver goes out, proves they are fast, everyone nods, and then they go back to sitting on a sim rig in a factory in England waiting for someone to break their collarbone. It's a lifestyle. Saturday, qualifying. Saturday morning brings a 3rd practice session. Then, in the afternoon, comes the main event of Saturday, qualifying. Qualifying is 30 minutes of pure concentrated intensity spread across 3 rounds. Round 1, Q1. All 20 drivers go out to set their fastest possible lap time. The 5 slowest are eliminated. They will start from the back of the grid. The session ends, they go to the back, and they spend the rest of Saturday thinking about what went wrong. Round 2, Q2. The remaining 15 drivers repeat the process. 5 more are eliminated. Round 3, Q3. 10 drivers. 1 shot at the front of the grid. The fastest driver in Q3 earns pole position. Pole position means starting first on the race grid. And starting first matters because passing people at 200 miles per hour through narrow race circuits is genuinely difficult, regardless of what the viewing experience at home might suggest. Starting at the front is a massive advantage. Starting at the back is a challenge, a story, and occasionally a miracle. Sunday, race day. The cars line up on the grid according to their qualifying result. The formation lap begins. 1 lap around the circuit to warm up tyres and get everything ready. Then the cars stop on the grid. 5 red lights appear, one by one. Then they go out. And then, approximately 1 second later, chaos begins. Someone always brakes too late into turn 1. Someone always touches a wheel and spins. Something always happens in the first corner that the commentator describes as an incident under investigation. It is the most reliable constant in Formula One. Here is a rapid-fire glossary of the terms that will be heard constantly during a Formula One broadcast, with honest explanations of what they actually mean. Pole position, starting first, earned in qualifying. The driver who sets the absolute fastest lap in Q3 gets the pole. It is extremely prestigious. Drivers have cried achieving it. Statistically, pole position converts to race wins more often than any other grid slot. The front is where everyone wants to be. The podium. The top 3 finishers in a race. First, second, and third. They stand on an elevated platform, the podium, receive trophies, and are covered in champagne. Some drivers spray it. Some drink it. At least one driver has, at some point, accidentally sprayed it directly into their own face. These are elite athletes. DRS, drag reduction system. A flap on the rear wing of the car that can open to reduce aerodynamic drag and increase straight line speed. Drivers can activate DRS only in designated zones on each circuit and only if they are within 1 second of the car directly ahead of them. It functions as an overtaking aid. Open the flap, gain extra speed down the straight, attempt the pass. Critics say it makes overtaking too artificial. Defenders say they would like to see the critics attempt to overtake someone at 330 km per hour without assistance and then revisit the opinion. The pit stop. When a car enters the pit lane during the race to have its tyres changed, receive mechanical repairs, or in especially chaotic races, wave goodbye to a wheel that has decided it no longer wants to be part of the team. A world-class pit stop takes under 2.5 seconds. The record, set by Red Bull Racing, is 1.80 seconds. That is less time than it takes to read this sentence aloud. During that time, 20 people execute a perfectly choreographed mechanical operation on a car doing nothing to help them by being extremely hot and surrounded by traffic. It is genuinely one of the most impressive things in sport. Tyre compounds. Formula One tyres come in 3 main dry weather compounds, colour-coded for clarity. The hard compound, marked with a white stripe, is the most durable. It lasts the longest but provides less grip, meaning the car is slower. The medium compound, marked with yellow, sits in the middle, a balance of performance and longevity. The soft compound, marked with red, provides maximum grip and speed, but wears out significantly faster. Using softs is like sprinting at full effort from the start of a marathon. Thrilling, briefly, then catastrophic. There are also intermediate and wet tyres for rain conditions because weather is a participant in Formula One, whether the schedule acknowledges it or not. The safety car. When there is an accident, debris, or hazardous conditions on track, a designated road car, the safety car, is deployed to lead the entire field slowly around the circuit while the issue is resolved. The safety car bunches the entire field together, eliminates any gaps that have built up, and triggers enormous strategic decisions for every team simultaneously. When the safety car is deployed mid-race, the pit wall radio chatter becomes extraordinary. Strategy calls happen in real time. Some teams get it right. Some teams get it catastrophically wrong. This is where championships are won and lost, and where team principles visibly age. Red flag. A red flag means the race is stopped entirely. Full stop. Everyone slows, enters the pit lane, and waits. This is more serious than a safety car and usually involves significant debris, a barrier that has been compromised, or conditions that make continuing dangerous. After a red flag, races restart, sometimes from a standing start, which resets everything and produces additional chaos on demand. Backmarkers. The slower cars being lapped by the race leaders. When a leading driver approaches a backmarker, the backmarker is expected to yield, to let the leader through without a fight. Sometimes this works seamlessly. Sometimes the backmarker either doesn't see the leader, makes an error, or positions themselves in a way that costs the leader time at a critical moment. When this happens and it affects the race result, the ensuing radio communication is best appreciated with subtitles. Formula One is not only about driving fast. If it were only about driving fast, the fastest car would win every single race, and everyone would stop watching. Strategy is the other half of the equation, and it is where races are genuinely decided. Every car must use at least 2 different tyre compounds during a race. This is a mandatory regulation. There is no option to start on one compound and drive to the finish without stopping. At least one pit stop is required. The question that occupies enormous amounts of engineering brainpower is, when? The undercut. The undercut is when a driver pits earlier than the rival they are trying to pass. By fitting fresh tyres ahead of the rival's stop, the driver can set faster lap times while the rival is still on older, slower rubber. If the undercut works perfectly, when the rival finally pits, the other driver comes out ahead of them in traffic. It is strategically elegant. It requires timing, precision, and a pit crew that executes the stop in under 2 seconds. When it works, the driver who was behind is suddenly ahead, and the team on the losing end of the undercut is left replaying the data trying to figure out where it went wrong. The overcut. The overcut is the opposite. Instead of pitting earlier, the driver stays out longer than the competition, building up a track position gap. The theory is that by the time the rival pits and returns to the circuit, the driver still running has built enough of a gap to stay ahead when they eventually pit themselves. The overcut requires the tyres to cooperate. If the tyres hold up and the pace remains competitive, the overcut can be brilliant. Tyre degradation. Tyres wear out. They start fresh, full of grip, fast and responsive. Over a stint, they gradually degrade, blistering, graining, losing the surface compound that provides the grip. Managing this degradation is a distinct skill. Some drivers are exceptional at preserving their tyres across long stints, allowing them to run fewer stops and maintain track position. Others are harder on tyres and need to pit earlier, surrendering position in exchange for fresh rubber. Teams spend hundreds of hours simulating tyre behaviour. Engineers model degradation curves for every compound at every circuit. And then, approximately 40% of the time, a safety car appears and invalidates every simulation the engineers spent 3 days running. 10 teams, 10 different philosophies, 10 different relationships with heartbreak. Here is a quick tour. Ferrari, the most famous team in the history of the sport. Founded in 1929. Red cars, Italian passion, an absolutely devastating relationship with success. Ferrari has won more world championships than any other constructor and yet possesses a unique ability to make strategic calls at the worst possible moments that suggest the pit wall communication system occasionally stops working. Their fan base, the Tifosi, is one of the most devoted in sport. Red Bull Racing. Between 2021 and 2024, Red Bull won 4 consecutive Constructors' Championships and 4 consecutive Drivers' Championships, with Max Verstappen taking every one of those drivers' titles. For a significant stretch of that period, Formula One races were less a competition and more a study in how far behind everyone else could finish, while one specific Dutchman drove into the distance. They were extraordinary. They were also slightly exhausting to watch if one's favourite team was not Red Bull. Their power unit advantage has been a significant factor in their dominance. As 2026 approaches with entirely new engine regulations, the question of whether Red Bull can maintain their edge under a fresh technical framework is one of the most significant storylines in the sport. Mercedes. Between 2014 and 2021, Mercedes won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships, 8 in a row. This is a number that requires a moment of genuine consideration. They were so dominant that the regulations were restructured partly to introduce competition, which is either inspiring or deeply inconvenient depending on which team one supports. Since 2022, they have navigated a more challenging period, working to recover competitiveness while the sport around them shifted. They remain one of the most technically sophisticated operations in motorsport, and they are never, under any circumstances, to be written off. McLaren. McLaren's story across the past several years is one of the great sporting rehabilitation arcs. After a prolonged period of struggle, the team rebuilt methodically. New leadership, new technical direction, new confidence, and by 2024 were genuinely competing for race wins and the Constructors' Championship. Their papaya orange livery was suddenly visible at the front of the field again, and a significant number of people reacted to this by crying in a way that they would like kept private. Aston Martin, backed by billionaire Lawrence Stroll and fielding a serious technical operation, Aston Martin have invested aggressively in personnel and infrastructure. Their British racing green livery looks genuinely exceptional. Fernando Alonso drove for them in 2023 and reminded the entire grid that a driver in their 40s could still be among the fastest on the circuit, which was both inspiring and slightly intimidating. The midfield, Alpine, Williams, Haas, Sauber, Racing Bulls. The midfield is where the narrative becomes unpredictable. These teams fight over the remaining points, operate on tighter budgets than the top constructors, and tend to be involved in a disproportionate share of driver market drama, mid-season lineup changes, and press releases that raise more questions than they answer. Every season, at least one midfield team either dramatically overachieves or spectacularly collapses. Identifying which one before the season begins is the motorsport equivalent of predicting the weather. Possible in theory, wildly inaccurate in practice. Strategy and speed are what make Formula One a sport. Drama is what makes it a cultural phenomenon. Crashes and safety. The cars crash. At the speeds involved, contact between cars or with barriers is visually dramatic. What is remarkable, and genuinely worth acknowledging, is the extraordinary evolution of safety in modern Formula One. The Halo device, introduced in 2018, is a titanium structure fitted above the driver's cockpit. It looks unusual. It works extraordinarily. Multiple drivers owe their lives to it. The energy-absorbing barriers around circuits, the fireproof race suits, the carbon fiber survival cells. Modern Formula One is genuinely one of the safest forms of motorsport ever devised. Drivers regularly walk away from impacts that, a generation ago, would have been fatal. This is not luck. This is the cumulative result of decades of engineering driven by tragedy and a commitment that it must not happen again. Team radio. During the race, drivers maintain constant audio communication with their engineers. These conversations are technical, they are motivational, they are occasionally extraordinary. A driver who has just been overtaken by a rival on an overcut strategy will communicate something to their engineer. That communication will be succinct, it will be direct. It will, in several languages simultaneously, be broadcast to every television in the world before being clipped, captioned, and disseminated across social media before the lap is finished. The team radio moments are a genre unto themselves. Driver rivalries. Formula One has produced some of the most compelling individual rivalries in sport. Two drivers on the same team are, technically, teammates. They are also simultaneously each other's most direct competition, sharing data, setup information, strategy, while racing against each other every single weekend. The tension this produces is extraordinary. Teammates who respect each other produce good racing. Teammates who do not produce television that nobody would be willing to script because it would be considered too dramatic. Controversial decisions. The FIA, the governing body of Formula One, makes decisions throughout every race via a panel of stewards. These decisions concern incidents, penalties, track limits, and race procedures. Some of these decisions are welcomed as correct and fair by most observers. Others are welcomed by approximately 14% of observers and disputed at considerable length by everyone else. The history of Formula One includes several moments where a decision made in the final minutes of a race became a conversation that continued for years afterward and has not fully concluded. Here is why 2026 matters more than a typical new season. Approximately every decade, Formula One introduces a wholesale regulatory reset. New car rules, new technical framework, new everything. When this happens, the entire grid is redistributed. Last year's fastest car might not be this year's fastest car. Teams that struggled under the old rules sometimes emerge as contenders under the new ones. Everything that was known is temporarily unknown again. 2026 is one of those resets, and it is one of the most significant in the sport's modern history. New power units, the 50-50 hybrid. The current hybrid power units have been in use since 2014. They are extraordinary pieces of engineering. Turbocharged 1.6-litre V6 combustion engines working in combination with electric motor generator units to produce around 1,000 horsepower in total. The electrical component adds power and recovers energy under braking. The 2026 regulations redesign this system fundamentally. The new power units will still produce around 1,000 horsepower, but the split between combustion and electrical power will shift dramatically. Roughly 50% of the total power will come from the electrical component, up from approximately 20% under the current regulations. This is a seismic change. The combustion engine and the electric motor become genuine co-stars in the power unit, rather than one leading and one supporting. The implications for how teams develop their engines, and which teams develop them best, will define the competitive order for years. Sustainable fuels. The 2026 power units will run on 100% sustainable fuel. This means fuel that is either synthesized from captured carbon dioxide, produced from biological waste products, or manufactured through other carbon-neutral processes, rather than refined from crude oil. The performance requirements remain identical. The fuel must perform at the level of current racing fuel. The engineers responsible for making that work at the temperatures and pressures of a race engine are doing something quietly remarkable and receiving appropriately very little credit for it. Formula One has a significant environmental footprint and has faced justified scrutiny. Sustainable fuels are one part of a broader effort to reduce the sport's carbon impact. They are not a complete solution, but they represent a genuine technical commitment that has downstream implications for road car fuel technology, which is partially why manufacturers are willing to spend the money required to compete. New aerodynamics, smaller, lighter, faster in traffic. The 2026 cars will be smaller and lighter than the current generation. The current cars, under the 2022 regulations, are notably heavy by historical F1 standards, which affects their handling characteristics, particularly through slower corners. The new aerodynamic concept introduces what are called active aerodynamics, parts of the car that physically adjust their position during a lap. On straights, bodywork elements adjust to minimize drag and maximize straight-line speed. Through corners, they adjust to maximize downforce and cornering grip. This is a more sophisticated and integrated version of the DRS concept. The entire car becomes adaptive rather than just one specific flap. The stated goal of these changes is to make overtaking more achievable without it feeling artificial. Whether that goal is achieved will be determined by the first few races of 2026. The engineers are confident. They are always confident. This is their job. New manufacturers joining: Audi and Honda. The 2026 regulations were specifically designed to be attractive enough to bring new manufacturers into the sport. This strategy appears to have worked. Audi, the German automotive manufacturer, is entering Formula One as a power unit supplier and is developing a path to becoming a full constructor. This is the first time a manufacturer of Audi's stature has entered Formula One in the modern era and represents a significant vote of confidence in the sport's direction. Honda is deepening its commitment to Formula One and entering as a works partner with Aston Martin from 2026. Honda's return to a full factory partnership after a period of supplying under branding constraints brings additional engineering resource and prestige. New manufacturers mean new power unit options for teams. New power units mean the established hierarchy, built on years of developing the current engine architecture, has to reset. Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull's power unit departments will not be able to coast on accumulated advantage. Everything starts again. Nobody knows who will be fastest. This is genuinely exciting. What this means for the racing, it means uncertainty. And uncertainty in Formula One is the ingredient that separates a great season from a forgettable one. When the 2026 cars roll out for pre-season testing, teams that spent hundreds of millions developing the 2025 car will discover whether their 2026 design direction was correct. Some will have misjudged it. Some will emerge unexpectedly fast. Some driver who won championships in one era may find themselves suddenly uncompetitive in another. Some driver who has been struggling for years in a midfield car may find the new regulations suddenly suit their team's strengths. 2026 is a blank page, and blank pages are simultaneously terrifying and the best possible place to start. So, Formula One. Fast cars, going in circles. Inside those circles, there are 20 drivers from 30 different countries racing machines built by thousands of engineers across dozens of factories. There are strategies that change in real time based on tyre temperature data, fuel loads, rival pit stop timing, and live weather models. There are moments of genius and moments of catastrophic failure separated by a margin so thin it can be measured in hundredths of a second. And in 2026, an entirely new era of the sport begins. New engines, new cars, new manufacturers, new potential champions, with nobody able to predict the outcome. It is, technically, just people driving in circles, but it might be the most complicated thing humans have ever done in circles. Welcome to Formula One.